Welcome to True Crime Cases, where we delve into the darkest corners of human nature. The sun sparkled across the waves at the Grand Hotel painting. Everything in shades of gold. Annika stepped out of her car, her high heels clicking against the polished driveway. At 33, she carried herself with the confidence of a successful corporate attorney, but today she wasn't thinking about legal briefs or court appearances. Today was all about Louisa. The hotel was buzzing with activity. Wedding staff hurried around with flowers and ribbons, transforming the already beautiful beachfront venue into something magical. White chairs lined the sandy path, and an elegant arch swayed gently in the ocean breeze. Everything looked straight out of a fairy tale, exactly as Louisa had dreamed. "Annika, thank goodness you're here." Avani down the hotel steps, her bridesmaid dress flowing behind her. Something in her voice made Annika pause. Avani was usually the calm one, the friend who never got rattled, but there was tension in her shoulders, worry, lines around her eyes. "Is everything okay?" Annika asked, grabbing her bag from the car. "Don't tell me there's a problem with the cake." Avani forced a laugh. No, the cake's perfect. Everything's perfect. It's just," she glanced over her shoulder, "Louisa's been asking for you." The bridal suite was on the top floor with huge windows overlooking the ocean. Annika could hear laughter and music before she even opened the door. Louisa sat in front of a massive mirror, surrounded by makeup artists and hairstylists. Her wedding dress hung nearby, catching the morning light like freshly fallen snow. "Me best friend's finally here." Louisa jumped up, nearly knocking over a tray of champagne flutes. At 32, she looked radiant, her face glowing with happiness. Being a pediatrician had given her endless patience and a heart of gold. Today she deserved everything to be perfect, but something felt off. Ezra, the other bridesmaid, stood by the window, typing furiously on her phone. Her face was pale, and she barely looked up. When Annika entered, Avani hovered near the door, fidgeting with her bracelet. The tension in the room was like a stretched rubber band ready to snap. "Annika, you won't believe it." Louisa grabbed her hands. "Harry sent the most amazing surprise. This morning, a diamond necklace. Can you believe it? He's just perfect." Annika smiled, but her stomach twisted. Harry, the mysterious financial consultant who had swept Louisa off her feet just a year ago. The man who seemed to have an answer for everything, yet somehow never quite answered anything at all. The makeup artist called Louisa back, and Annika took the moment to look around the suite. Everything screamed luxury. Champagne on ice, platters of fresh fruit, rose petals scattered across the tables. But something caught her eye, a document peeking out from Louisa's purse, something about bank transfers. "Avani," Annika whispered, pulling her friend aside. "What's going on? You and Ezra look like you've seen a ghost." Avani's eyes darted around the room. "I don't know. Maybe it's nothing. But Ezra saw something. This morning when Alan was checking in," she said. A knock at the door cut her off. The wedding planner burst in, clipboard in hand, talking about schedules and timelines. The moment was lost in a flurry of activity. Annika watched as Louisa twirled in front of the mirror, practicing her vows. Her friend deserved the world. But why did Ezra keep looking at her phone with such fear? Why did Avani jump every time someone mentioned Alan's name? The ocean waves crashed below, steady and rhythmic. In just a few hours, Louisa would walk down that sandy aisle to meet her perfect match. But as Annika stood by the window, watching the final preparations below, she couldn't shake the feeling that this perfect day was balanced on the edge of a cliff. Something was wrong, and as a lawyer who had seen her share of lies and deception, Annika knew that sometimes the most beautiful facade hid the darkest secrets. The question was, what secret was hiding behind Alan's perfect smile? The champagne bubbles rose in their glasses, but the celebration felt hollow in the reflection of the massive windows. Annika caught Ezra wiping away a tear. Avani's hands shook as she helped arrange Louisa's veil. The clock ticked toward noon, toward the ceremony, toward whatever truth was waiting to break free, and Annika had a terrible feeling that this perfect wedding day was about to shatter into a million pieces. The door to the bridal suite opened, letting in a burst of hallway chatter. Annika turned, expecting another wedding planner or photographer. Instead, her heart stopped. There, in an expertly tailored suit, stood Alan, the man Louisa was supposed to marry in 3 hours, except that wasn't this name at all. Annika's legal mind flashed back 4 years to a case file that had kept her up for weeks. The The witness statements, the trail of broken lives, it all came rushing back like a tidal wave, that perfect smile, those calculating eyes, she knew them all. Well, Harry. Louisa's voice snapped Annika back to reality. You're not supposed to see me before the ceremony. He laughed, holding up his hands in mock surrender, just dropping off a surprise for my beautiful bride, but his eyes caught Annika's, and for a fraction of a second, something dark flickered across his face. Recognition. Annika's hands grew cold. This man wasn't Alan's successful financial consultant. He was Rick Thompson, mastermind behind one of the largest investment fraud schemes she'd ever investigated, the man who had vanished with millions, leaving dozens of victims devastated. I'll just leave this here, he said smoothly, placing a small wrapped box on a side table. His confidence was flawless, his charm perfect, just like it had been in all those victim statements Annika had read. Avani to shoo him out. But Annika couldn't move. Her mind raced through the case, details Rick Thompson had targeted, successful professionals gaining their trust, accessing their accounts, then disappearing without a trace. The FBI had never caught him now. Here he was about to marry her best friend. Louisa picked up the gift, her face glowing. Isn't he wonderful? I still can't believe I got so lucky. Annika watched Ezra's face pale even further. The mysterious tension from earlier suddenly made her terrible sense. Had Ezra discovered something too? Annika, Louisa's voice was concerned. You look like you've seen a ghost in a way. She had images flashed through her mind. Louisa's successful pediatric practice, her savings, her trusting nature. All the things that made her a perfect target. Just wedding day jitters, Annika managed to say, forcing a smile. But her legal instincts were screaming the frequent business trips Harry talked about. The vague explanations about his past therish to set up joint accounts. It all fit the pattern through the window. She watched him stride across the hotel grounds, somehow both belonging perfectly, and being completely out of place, just like a chameleon, just like the con artist she knew him to be. I need some air, Annika mumbled, slipping out of the suite. Her heels clicked rapidly down the hallway as her mind raced. What evidence did she have? Would anyone believe her? There were only 3 hours until the ceremony. Her phone felt heavy in her hand. One call to her old contacts at the firm could confirm everything. But if she was wrong, she'd ruin her best friend's wedding day. If she was right and did nothing, she'd be letting her best friend marry a criminal. The ocean breeze hid her face as she stepped onto the hotel's balcony below. Guests were starting to arrive, their laughter floating up on the wind. Everything looked perfect, the flowers, the decorations, the setting, but now Annika saw it differently. It wasn't just a wedding setup anymore. It was a stage for a con man's greatest performance, and only she knew the truth. Her phone buzzed, a message from Ezra. Need to talk. It's about Alan. Something's very wrong. Annika took a deep breath, straightening her shoulders. The lawyer in her knew what had to be done. The best friend in her dreaded every second of what was coming. The perfect wedding day was about to become something else entirely, and time was running out. Annika's hands trembled as she helped Louisa with her veil. Every laugh, every excited squeal from her best friend felt like tiny daggers in her heart. The memory of meeting Harry for the first time at their favorite coffee shop last year now played differently in her mind. He just happened to be there. Louisa had said back then, eyes sparkling, "Can you believe it? He spilled his coffee all over my new dress and insisted on buying me another one." Now Annika understood. There had been nothing accidental about that meeting. She remembered how smoothly Alan had joined their Sunday brunch group after that, always picking up the check, always having the perfect story about his latest investment success. Annika, Louisa's voice pulled her back to the present. "Can you help me with these earrings? They're from Harry, an early wedding gift," while fastening the diamond studs. Annika's mind flashed to last month's dinner party. Harry had expertly deflected questions about his hometown. "Oh, you know how it is," he'd laughed, "when your father's in diplomatic service everywhere and nowhere. Feels like home." Ezra appeared at Annika's elbow, phone clutched tight. "We need to talk," she whispered, now in the hallway. Ezra's face was ash white. "I work at the bank. Remember this morning I saw something? Harry's been moving money from Louisa's accounts, large amounts." Annika's stomach lurched. 3 months ago, Louisa had excitedly announced they were combining their finances. "It just makes sense," she'd said. "Harry knows So much about investments, he's already helped me double my savings. The photographer called them back inside. Louisa stood by the window, radiant in her wedding dress, practicing her vows. I knew he was the one she was saying when he surprised me with that weekend trip to the beach. Remember? Annika had planned everything perfectly. Of course he had, just like he'd planned everything else. Annika now saw how carefully he'd constructed his image, the successful consultant, always on important calls, the generous friend, never without a good reason for his mysterious business trips. Avani pulled Annika aside during the makeup touch-ups. "Something feels wrong," she whispered. "Last week I overheard Harry on the phone. He was using a different name when I asked him about it. He had this perfect explanation about a client's privacy." Annika's mind raced back to the fraud case. Rick Thompson had always had perfect explanations, perfect stories, perfect timing. Just like Alan, Louisa's voice floated over. "Isn't it crazy how fast this year has gone? Harry said we shouldn't wait. When you know, right? Fast. Everything had been so fast. The whirlwind romance, the quick engagement, the Avani wedding plans, and now the joint accounts." Annika watched her reflection in the giant mirror as she fixed her bridesmaid's dress on one side of her. Louisa was beaming with joy on the other. Ezra looked ready to be sick. The weight of knowledge pressed down on Annika's shoulders like a lead cape. If she spoke up now, she'd destroy Louisa's perfect day, her perfect dream. Their perfect friendship might never recover. But if she stayed silent, her phone buzzed again, a message from her old investigator friend. "Urgent, call me. It's about Rick Thompson." The clock on the wall ticked mercilessly. In less than an hour, Louisa would walk down the aisle. In less than an hour, a con man would complete his greatest performance. In less than an hour, Annika had to decide between breaking her best friend's heart or letting her marry a criminal. Outside, the waves crashed against the shore, steady and rhythmic. Inside, Annika's heart crashed against her ribs with the force of each new realization, each remembered moment that now seemed so obviously calculated. Louisa called out, "Annika, come here. I want a photo with my best friend." Annika forced a smile, stepping into the frame. In the camera's flash, she saw everything: the past year of careful manipulation, the web of lies, and the terrible choice she had to make. Time was running out, and doing the right thing had never felt so wrong. "Bathroom emergency," Annika called out, ducking into the hotel suite's marble bathroom. Her hands shook as she dialed Smith. Annika, her old friend from the fraud investigation unit. Annika. Smith's voice was tense. "I was just about to call you." "Where are you?" She lowered her voice, checking that the water was running. "Grand Hotel beachfront." "Smith, please tell me I'm wrong. Tell me it's not him. It's worse than you think. We've been tracking Thompson for months. He's not just the guy from your old case. He's wanted in Florida, California, and New York. The guy's been busy." A knock on the bathroom door made Annika jump. "Annika, the floors needs to know about the centerpiece ribbons," Louisa called out. "Just a minute." Annika's mind raced. "Smith, he's about to marry my best friend in less than an hour." "Listen, Len," carefully Smith's voice turned. "Urgent, we've got agents already heading your way. Thompson doesn't know we're onto him. Keep everything normal. Don't tip him off." Another frantic knock. "Annika, we need you on my way." She splashed water on her face, trying to look normal. Outside, Louisa was surrounded by flower arrangements while Ezra hovered nearby, still clutching her phone like a lifeline. "I'll call you right back," Annika whispered into her phone, then slipped it into her dress pocket. "The pink ribbon, sir?" the Ive Louisa asked, holding up samples. Annika pointed randomly, her mind elsewhere. She needed more information. "Just need to make one more call about the music playlist this time." She ducked into an empty service corridor. Her old colleague at the law firm, Maria, answered on the first ring. "Maria, remember the Thompson case, the investment fraud? Of course, that case was career-making. Why, he's here and he's about to marry my best friend." The sharp intake of breath told Annika everything. Annika, that man cleaned out bank accounts across 3 states. He suspected in at least 13 other cases. "The FBI's been building a case. I know they're on their way." Annika peeked around the corner, watching hotel guests arrive. "Maria, what else? Can you tell me he's gotten better at his game, more sophisticated? Last victim lost over $3 million. Annika, if he's there." Louisa's voice echoed down the hallway. "Annika, where are you?" The photographer wants wedding party photos. "Coming," Annika called back, her heart pounding. "Maria, send me everything you have now, back in the bridal suite." Annika's phone kept buzzing with incoming messages, each one worse than the last police report's victim statements. Bank records, showing a pattern of fraud that stretched across the country. Annika Ezra caught her eye across the room. The bank just called. There's been some unusual activity. Before she could finish, Avani burst in. The guests are all seated. It's almost time. Louisa twirled in front of the mirror, adjusting her veil. I can't believe it's finally happening. Annika's phone buzzed one final time. A text from Smith FBI team. 12 minutes out. Keep him there. Through the window she could see Harry greeting guests below, playing his part perfectly. The charming groom, the successful businessman, the perfect catch. The photographers started arranging people for photos. Louisa grabbed Annika's arm, pulling her into position. My best friends, he beamed. I couldn't do this without you. Annika smiled back, feeling the weight of her phone filled with evidence of Evelyn's crimes in her pocket. Somewhere out there, FBI agents were closing in. The perfect wedding was about to become a crime scene, and time was running out. To protect her friend from the truth that was racing toward them like an unstoppable wave. 6 minutes to ceremony. The wedding planner's voice echoed through the hotel corridors. Annika's heart raced as she spotted Harry walking alone toward the elevator. It was now or never. Harry, she called out, keeping her voice steady. Or should I say, Rick Thompson. He turned slowly. His perfect smile never wavering, but his eyes, they turned cold as ice. Annika, I was wondering when you'd figure it out. The plush hotel corridor suddenly felt like a cage. Designer wallpaper and fancy light fixtures couldn't mask the tension crackling between them. Leave now, Annika said, firmly. Walk away before they gather. You know exactly who I mean. Harry Rick leaned casually against the walls, straightening his expensive tie. You really think you're the first lawyer who's tried to stop me? The first person who thought they could catch me? This is different. I have proof. The FBI has already let me stop you right there. He cut in smoothly. His voice was quiet, but razor sharp. You know what makes a successful lawyer, Annika? Reputation. One hint of malpractice, one suggestion of mishandling client information. He pulled out his phone, showing her a screen full of documents. Annika's blood ran cold. Those are fake, are they? In today's world, does that really matter? Imagine the headlines. Prominent attorney fabricates evidence against client's fiancé. Your career would be over before you could prove they're not real. A door slammed. Somewhere nearby, voices drifted up from the wedding preparations below. Louisa trusts me, Annika said, trying to keep her voice from shaking. She'll believe me, will she? His smile turned cruel, sweet, trusting. Louisa, did you know she already signed over power of attorney to me this morning? A wedding day surprise, she called it. By the time you convince anyone of anything. Well, he shrugged elegantly, Annika's fists clenched. You won't get away with this, but I already have multiple times. He checked his watch. A watch probably bought with someone else who's stolen money. Now we have two options. You can go back in there, be a good bridesmaid, smile for the photos. Or, his voice hardened, you can try to stop this wedding and watch your entire life fall apart. The elevator dinged nearby. Avani's voice called out, Annika, where are you? Louisa's asking for you. Tick-tock. Alan smirked. What's it going to be? Annika stood her ground even as her mind raced. She hadn't expected him to be this prepared, this calculating, but then again, that's how he'd managed to con so many people. One last chance, she said. Leave. Now he pushed off from the wall, straightening his Smith-it. You know what's funny? In about 20 minutes, I'll be legally married to Louisa. Everything Shones will be half mine, completely legal. He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. And there's nothing you can do about it. The wedding march started playing faintly from the ceremony area. Harry's smile widened. That's my cue. See you at the altar, Annika. He turned and walked away. Every step confident. Every movement controlled. He truly believed he was untouchable. Annika watched him go, her hands trembling with anger, but beneath the fear and rage, something else flickered to life: hope. Because while Harry had been threatening her, her phone had been recording every word, and the FBI team wasn't just on their way. They were already here. The only question was, could she get the recording to them before Alan said I do? The wedding march played softly. As Louisa prepared to walk down the aisle, Annika stood in her bridesmaid position, her heart hammering against her ribs through the glass door of the hotel's beach terrace. She could see Alan waiting under the flower arch-looking picture perfect as always. Then she noticed the men and women in dark suits quietly filing in through different hotel entrances to anyone else. They looked like regular guests, but Annika recognized FBI agent Smith Annika among them. They moved with purpose, taking strategic positions around the venue. "It's time," the wedding planner whispered excitedly. Louisa appeared radiant in her white dress, clutching her father's arm. That's when everything happened at once. A team of agents smoothly intercepted Alan before he could reach the altar, steering him toward a back hallway. His confident smile finally cracked as Agent Annika appeared holding up a badge. "Rick Thompson." Annika's voice carried just enough to be heard, but not enough. "Tuckus, panic, you're under arrest for multiple counts of fraud, identity theft, and money laundering across state lines." Louisa froze mid-step. "What's happening?" Annika, before the confusion could turn to chaos. Avani and Ezra quickly guided Louisa into a private room while hotel staff smoothly directed guests to their reception area, citing a brief technical delay in the back hallway. Alan's perfect facade crumbled as agents read him his rights. Annika watched as another team emerged from the hotel elevator, carrying evidence bags from his room. "We found everything," Agent Annika told Annika quietly. "Bank transfer schedules, fake IDs, documents ready to clean out Luis's accounts." Right after the ceremony, he was planning to disappear by tomorrow morning. The hotel manager efficiently handled the guests, announcing that there would be a slight delay due to an unexpected situation in the private room. Annika held Louisa as the truth came out. "How could he?" Louisa whispered, tears screaming down her face. "All of it was a lie." "Miss Wilson," a female FBI agent addressed Louisa gently. "We've been tracking Mr. Thompson for months. You're not his first target, but thanks to your friend Annika, you'll be his last." She recorded his confession. In the hallway just minutes ago, Ezra stepped forward, still clutching her phone. "The bank transfers he tried to initiate this morning. We stopped them all. Your money is safe." Louisa through her tears. Louisa looked at Annika. "You knew you tried to protect me." Annika squeezed her hand. "I couldn't let him hurt you. I couldn't let him steal everything you've worked for." Outside, they could hear the murmur of confused guests. The perfect wedding had turned into a sting operation, but somehow it felt like a rescue mission. "Instead, we found his go bag in the hotel room," Agent Annika added, "packed and ready, fake passports, burner phones, and details of his next target already lined up." Louisa straightened up, wiping her tears. Despite everything, her strength showed through. "What? Do we tell everyone the truth?" Annika said firmly. "That you were brave enough to stop a wedding when you learned the truth instead of making a terrible mistake." As Alan was led away, in handcuffs, his perfect suit couldn't hide his true nature. Thanks for watching True Crime Cases.